Thank you very much, Pastor. It's a delight to be with you. Many of you were at the seminar last night and this morning. It's good to see you again and also to meet the new friends. I thank Pastor Fidel for that wonderful introduction. They never tell you what you really want to know about a speaker. They're always sitting there wondering, how old is that guy, and all the details. So I'll put your minds at rest. I will be 69 in 1 month, so you don't have to guess, add up all the figures I'm giving and try to figure it out. 50 was traumatic for me. I didn't mind 65, but 50 was really traumatic. The country was about 200 at the time, and one day it hit me, I'm 1/4 as old as the United States. I was on my way to Australia, and as you know, you cross the international date line, and I had my 50th birthday twice. And so I'm depressed. I've got a very encouraging wife. We'll be married 46 years tomorrow. Thank you. And she said, honey, don't be discouraged. You're going to live to be 100. And I said, how do you know? She said, you look half dead already. So with that encouragement, I've been pressing on to my second half century here. We have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. It's called Planned Parenthood. It's very difficult to make them come out even, as you may know, especially if you have 7 or 5. We decided to name all of the children from the Bible. R's for the girls and D's for the boys. Ruth, Rhoda, and Rachel. We're doing fine. We had Rebecca in case we had another girl. And then David, Daniel, and the 3rd boy came along. We said, what's another good name for a boy from the Bible that begins with D? David, Daniel, Demetrius, Diotrephes, Demas, devil. We thought that several times. So we called him Paul. Just kind of dropped the line on the D. Eeny, meeny, miny, and Henry didn't want no mo. We had so many children, I was afraid to come home and say, what's new, dear? Glad you have a sense of humor. My topic this evening is a topic that I am very much interested in, and I understand that many of you are too. And it's titled, 5 Reasons Why I Am Not a 5-Point Calvinist. 5 reasons why I am not a 5-Point Calvinist. A man died and went to heaven, and he saw 2 lines. One line said, predestined, and the other line said, free choice. So being a good 5-Point Calvinist, he got in the predestined line. And he worked his way up to the front, and the angel in charge said, why are you in this line? He said, well, I chose to be here. He said, well, it's the wrong line. The free choice line is over there. So he moved over to the other line, and he worked his way to the front of the line, and the angel at the desk said, what are you doing in this line? He said, somebody made me come here. Predestination and free will. It's probably one of the oldest problems in the history of theology. God predestined us. Do we freely choose it? What's the relationship between the two? The debate broke out right after the Reformation when Martin Luther and John Calvin and other theologians took a stand against many of the excesses they perceived in the Roman Catholic Church and stood on great fundamental principles like the Bible alone and grace alone and faith alone and Christ alone for the glory of God alone. That word alone being the crucial difference between Roman Catholics and Protestants. Inside of the Protestant faith, there were differences of opinion on this very issue. And I want to say tonight that with all due respect, this is an intramural debate. People on both sides are good and godly people. People on both sides believe all of the fundamentals of the faith, the virgin birth and the deity of Christ and the substitutionary atonement, the bodily resurrection, the second coming. People on both sides of this issue believe all of those alones, salvation by grace alone and faith alone through Christ alone, based on the Bible alone. But it is an important topic because it does bear on several very important doctrines that the Bible teaches. And so I would like to share with you why I don't come out on the side of what's called the 5-point Calvinist. Now, 5-point Calvinism comes from the Dutch context. And in the Dutch context, as you know, tulip is a very important flower. And so we use the acrostic of a tulip. And the 5 points are T, total depravity, U, unconditional election, L, limited atonement, I, irresistible grace, and P, perseverance of the saints. So that little acrostic, tulip, will be the 5 points of our message. And I'll explain each point, and then I'll look at some scripture and try to tell you why, on the basis of scripture, that I do not accept or believe that that particular point, as understood by the extreme Calvinist, is correct. Let's begin with a scripture in Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 1. And this we will be